Hello friends, Sarah here from the Centre for Mental Health. I hope all is well. I'm not in my usual office today. I'm in a Premier Inn in Sheffield because I'm speaking at a conference later. But I really wanted to speak to you about the Mental Health Act review report that was launched yesterday. I hope you saw the news. We at the Centre really welcome the recommendations that Sir Simon Wessely made yesterday to government about the changes that need to be made to the Mental Health Act. Indeed, we worked closely with the review team throughout the year. Andy Bell worked internally with the team around really important issues around kind of really understanding the technical aspects of the Act, really making sure that people's views and how they felt about the Act were taken on board. I was very privileged to be able to chair the autonomy group that formulated the recommendations about advanced decisions and second opinion. It really was an extraordinary process, and I think one of the things that I felt and still feel very strongly about is that we really engaged people who'd had experience of psychiatric care. That wasn't always easy, and it wasn't easy because the stories were really difficult to hear. We heard powerful testimony throughout the time from people who had been detained against their will and then didn't receive the care and treatment that they needed or wanted. We heard stories about people that have been held in hospital beds for a long period of time without kind of the possibility of recovery or recovery not being in sight. This was difficult stuff to hear. We also know that one of the important reasons why the Act was reviewed in the first place was the overrepresentation of Black and African Caribbean people in the psychiatric system. The burning injustice, to use Theresa May's language. The Act as it stands today is paternalistic and out of date. And the recommendations absolutely attempt to bring the Act into the 21st century. It's really important that we recognise that in order to achieve parity of esteem, we really need to address the imbalance of power. When a person is experiencing a mental health crisis and needs help, often when they're detained against their will, it's really difficult to understand from them what they might need. And the advanced decision-making process is really about offering somebody the opportunity to outline what they want when they are the most vulnerable. It's really important that we don't forget that actually being detained against your will is something that can affect you for the rest of your life, and therefore we need to get it right. People who work in services often don't intend to do a bad job. But sometimes, because of the way things are structured, it disables their ability to do the right thing. The recommendations really address that. There are powerful statements in the report that talk about the need for investment. Psychiatric hospitals don't look great. They're not extraordinarily comfortable places. The investment into making sure that the environment in which people stay in when they're unwell is much more comfortable and appropriate than it is now. That we're talking about making sure that no matter where you are in the country, that if you find yourself detained under the Mental Health Act, that we can access your advanced decision making. All of this is going to require investment, and we're really pleased that the government have already accepted some of the recommendations in the report, including the ones about advanced decision making. But we've also made recommendations about increasing access to advocacy at the earliest opportunity. That's going to demand further investment. It's going to demand a kind of reconfiguration of the workforce. There is so much more work that needs to be done. The report itself, whilst it does address inequality and it offers further safeguards for people at the most difficult times of their lives, it still is not going to deal with the racism and discrimination in our society. We mustn't forget that psychiatric Services, mental health services, are part of that whole community. We mustn't forget that people who work in mental health are also part of our world. And therefore, we need to help everybody make the right decisions. We need everybody to kind of think compassionately and I guess really making sure that individuals have access to the best care at the right time. You know, for some people, being detained under the Mental Health Act can be helpful. There are some people that we spoke to who said, when I was really ill, I needed someone to take care of me. I needed someone to make the decisions that I couldn't make. We respect that perspective too, and therefore that's why the Act is still going to exist. It's really hard to kind of find a balance between what people really kind of want and what they need at the most difficult time. The Act has got a long way to go. Obviously, it recommends changes in law, but it also recommends changes in policy, in practice. And so we kind of imagine that we've got a number of years before we really start to feel the difference that the report suggests we could make. We're really keen to hear from you about what you think of the report recommendations. We know that some people think it's gone further than they expected and some people think it hasn't gone far enough. And I think all of those thoughts and feelings are right. It was a really, really difficult balance. We know Sir Simon Wesley really well, and I have to say he is one of the most compassionate men that I have ever met. And I know that he took this work really seriously. And I hope that you recognise that much of the work that the review team did was really informed every step of the way by people's experiences. People's experiences were not a nice to have, they were a must have. So we leave this with you, but we're going to be looking at the Act over the coming week and there'll be more things that we want to say about it. You know, it's not going to solve all the problems that we know exist in psychiatric care, but it will go some way to making a difference. Speak to you again. Bye.